Today is lesson 106, which is, like we discussed briefly yesterday, reading and ordering, or putting in correct order, reading and ordering decimals. Now we've done this with lowered value decimals, but now we're going to be taking it up a little bit more as far as longer decimals and a little bit more detail as to how exactly you would read them and order them. Now here's the chart that we looked at in the book yesterday, and you will notice that we drew the line where the decimal place would be. So if I said 1 and 1/10, this would be 1 and 1/100th, 2 decimal places over. 1 and 1,000th, 3 decimal places over. And the last one we will look at is 1 and, which is your decimal, 10,000th. So as you can tell, its location determines its place value. First decimal place is the tenths place right there. 2 decimal places takes you to the hundredths place. 3 decimal places takes you to the thousandths place, and 4 decimal places takes you to the 10,000ths place. Also remember, whenever you see your decimal, you are reading it as and. So it's your whole number, and then you're reading the value of the decimal based upon its place value. Now just to look at a couple more, just so you're seeing it fully and getting it really solid in your head, if we were to have 12 and 625 thousandths, 625 thousandths. Go ahead and write that. How would you write 12 and 625 thousandths? Well, hopefully you had the 12 and 625 thousandths. 12 and 625 thousandths. Now, when you are saying these numbers right here, you read the number, but then you have to figure out what the last place value is, and you put the name. 625 thousandths. Now, if I were to say 12 and 625 10,000ths, well, that would look a little different. 12 and 625 10,000ths. I know I'm going to have to be ending here at the 10,000ths. So 625, well, I can't leave it that way. I have to have that 0 in there. So 12 and 625 10,000ths indicated to me that that 0 in the tenths place had to be left empty. So just be sure you are aware of what you're saying to know where that last number can be found. In this case, it was found in the 10,000ths place is what you named it, and so the last number has to be in the 10,000ths place. Now, rounding the decimals are going to be exactly the same as it was before. If you've got your number line, oops, give our arrow on this end, number line, when you go right in the middle, it's going to be your 0.5, which we talked about the other day. That's the same as 0.50, 0.500. So that'd be 5 tens, 5 hundredths, 5 thousandths, last numbers in the place where I would say the name. So when you round, you just have to know if it is at this point, it's going up to this number. If it doesn't make it to the 5, it's going back that direction. So if I were to ask you, round 127 and 62 hundredths, and I asked you to round that to the nearest whole number, well, immediately you would go, well, that 6 obviously was on this side of the 5, so it rounds me up. It would round to 128. So just still look at the tenths place, the tenths place to know where you round. So that's the easy part of rounding with decimals. Remember, you're just going to be still looking at that tenths place no matter what's past it. Still look at the tenths place. Now, one final element to working with decimals like this is being able to compare them and put them in order. If I asked you to compare 4 and 5/10 compared to 4 and 487 thousandths. Well, it's hard to compare here because I only have 1 decimal place, and on this side I have 3 decimal places. So what you want to do is you want to get the same number of decimal places. So here I would just go 4, 5, and what can I add to the end that I can keep adding and adding or taking away and it doesn't change the value? Hopefully you said zeros. So notice now I'm going to say 4 and 500 thousandths versus 4 and 487 thousandths. Well, looking there, it's clear. It's easy to see which one's the bigger one. The bigger one would be the 500 is bigger than 487. So when you compare decimals, you want to make sure you have the same number of decimal places on both sides. That's going to be the same thing we'll do with ordering our decimals. When you go to order decimals, you want to make sure they have the same number of place values. So if I said put these in order from smallest to greatest, and I said 45 hundredths and 457 thousandths and 5/10. Well, right now it's a little hard to compare because we're looking at different place values. So let's make them all the same place value. My biggest place value has 3 in it. So I'll go over here and make this one 3. This one already is 3. And let's make this one 3. Now notice I'm comparing 3 decimal places, 3 decimal places, 3 decimal places, and I can put those in order because I know that 450 and then 457 would be the next, biggest, and then 500 would be the biggest. So 450,000, 457 thousandths, and 500 thousandths. Those are in order. So when you go to compare or order decimals, make sure you are comparing and ordering with the same number of decimal places, with the same decimal place value. Like we did here, we had to turn them from different sizes where we had a 2, a 3, and a 1. We needed to turn them all into the 3s before we could compare them or order them. So that is working with naming and comparing and ordering decimal numbers.